Greetings, folks. Diamond West 12 back again, another video. Finally, I actually I've actually finally found some time to do this video. This is my review of Power Rangers Megaforce, the first season of Power Rangers Megaforce. And I'd say sit back because I got a lot of things to say about this. Some things aren't very nice. Um, though I will say it's not worse than Samurai, and it's a step above Mystic Force. And well, to me, my worst seasons of Power Rangers are Jungle Fury, Samurai, and Mystic Force. And I would say Megaforce is a step ahead, almost barely a step ahead of Mystic Force in my opinion. But I will say Megaforce is a season that had lots of potential. It had a lot of potential. Had a lot of things going for it, but some things weren't really heavily executed. And now this is how I'm gonna do this video. I'm gonna break it up like in the bits. I'm gonna talk about characters, story, characters. I'm talking about the characters first, and I'm gonna talk about the story, and then I'm just gonna give like my overall thoughts on it. But anyway, let me start off with the characters. The Red Ranger Troy. He was kind of, I mean, in my opinion, he's not one of the top. Well, I wouldn't put him in my top. I mean, he's not. He wasn't a terrible Red Ranger, but when I pick Troy, if I had to pick like a leader of a team, I pick Troy before I pick Casey on Jungle Fury, um, or even before. Well, I would say I pick him over Jaden from Power Rangers Samurai, but toward the end of Samurai and Super Samurai, Jaden kind of showed that he was a pretty decent leader. Even though Samurai was a very lackluster season, Jaden proved that he was actually a pretty decent leader. But anyway, but yeah, Troy as a Red Ranger, I say he'd be low on the list in my top, but he wouldn't be like my least favorite Red Ranger. I mean, he's not my favorite Red Ranger, but he's not one of my. I wouldn't say he's my least favorite Red Ranger. I mean, at first he did really kind of start off as very bland. He was a very bland character, but he really was the one that had the most martial arts background. He had the most martial arts experience, and he basically, and it showed throughout the season that he was the more noble fighter of the whole season. But anyway, he was an okay character. He was pretty okay. Now let me talk about the Blue Ranger Noah. He was basically your quintessential geek. He was the quintessential geek. There was no denying that he was basically the Billy of this season. But this is something I'm actually wondering, and actually kind of hoping they do with Noah in Super Mega Force. You know how and throughout Mighty Wolf and Power Rangers, through the first season, Billy was basically a flat out geek. Then the second season, after the second season came along, he became more of a noble fighter. Like Billy started off basically as a he didn't have any fighting skills at all. He basically defeated his enemies with his mind. He basically had to morph. Basically, in order to fight, he had to be able to morph. He had to morph to fight. But later on throughout the season, mostly throughout season one, well, toward the end of season one and on in season two, and really in season two, and all the way through season three, Billy was basically a noble. He was really became a very noble fighter. So, and he basically ditched the glasses. So, and I'm actually wondering if I'm hoping they do that with I know it's kind of trying to recreate something, but I actually kind of hope they do that with with Noah and Super Mega Force, because I mean he had his moments, but he was basically, in all words, he was the geek. I mean, it was good that he was a smart black guy. I mean, hey, I consider myself a smart black guy, but it was good he was a smart black guy, but he was the geek. He was the quintessential geek of the show, of the team. But anyway, he was the brains of the team. Anyway, now let me talk about Jake. I had to say Jake, the Black Ranger, probably was my favorite out of all of them. He was basically my favorite out of all of them. He was, and Jake, he was basically like, I will say some of his stuff was reminiscent to Zack and whatnot. I will kind of say he was kind of like Zack and Adam put together. In my opinion, he was a Black Ranger. He was he kind of was like Zack and Adam put together. But anyway, but yeah, in a way, Jake, like I say, Jake, he was my favorite character, but this one certain aspect of him kind of got on my nerves. his infatuation with I think her name. I don't know. I don't ask me why. I always got the letter Yellow Ranger and Pink Ranger mixed up. I think Emma was the Pink Ranger and Gia was the Yellow Ranger. I'm thinking about another season. It was more so because their names are kind of reminiscent to the Yellow and Pink Ranger of Samurai, Super Samurai, with Emily and Mia and whatnot. They just kind of swapped colors. Gia made Gia the Yellow Ranger and Emma the Pink Ranger. But anyway, but his infatuation with Gia kind of really got on my nerves. But anyway, but yeah, moving on from all that. Moving on from that, but yeah, but that's all the only flaw I had really had with Jake and throughout the season. He was, like I said, he was actually really like my favorite Ranger throughout the whole season. He was like the cool guy, the most athletic guy in school and whatnot. But he was like I said, he was my favorite character. But anyway, now let me talk about Gia. Gia was kind of like she was kind of reminiscent to to Trini of the whole of the season. She was kind of the Trini of the season. She was more the badass fighter girl. She basically could hold her own in a fight. And just kind of it's like and with all due respect to Tweet Train, I kind of thought Trini was kind of bland, and I'm not really saying Gia was bland in Megaforce, but she kind of had some reminiscence of Trini in a way. Like she was the badass fighter and whatnot, but she wasn't as bland as Trini. I love Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I love that whole team, but the Trini was really the blandest. But anyway, but yeah, and some of the bland. Well, Gia had had her blandness in a way too. She was like basically the stereotypical take no shit female fighter and whatnot. She also kind of reminded me a little bit of Jen from Power Rangers Time Force. But anyway, now let me talk about Emma. She was basically the popular girl. She was basically like the Kimberly of the season. She was the popular girl. She also can fight and whatnot, but she was more the popular girl, and she also was all into the environment and whatnot. She was really environmental. It kind of reminded me of well, she wasn't a Pink Ranger, but reminded me of what's her name? What was her name? The White Tiger Ranger from her the name's the tip of my tongue. The White Tiger Ranger from Power Rangers Wild Force. What was her name? I can't. Alyssa. That was her name. She kind of reminded me of Emma. Kind of reminded me more of Alyssa. Kind of reminded me of Alyssa in from Power Rangers Wild Force. She like all the environment. Cause well, Wild Force was more of a real environmental season anyway. But yeah, but she kind of gave me shades of her. But anyway, now let me talk about Gosei. Gosei was more. He was the Zordon. He's the master. He was the Zordon of this season, and interestingly enough, he was also Zordon's I guess student. He basically says that Gosei said that Zordon was his mentor, and he basically sent him to Earth to basically whenever Earth was really in trouble. He basically sent him. Zordon sent him to Earth, and this but yeah, he was very reminiscent of Zordon, basically a floating tiki man of some sort, or a head of some sorts. But anyway, but yeah, that's really how I thought about most of the characters. Well, Tensu, he was the robotic alpha of the season. But I know a lot of people really kind of bitched and complained about Gosei and Tensu at the first when it was first announced. When Megaforce was first announced, a lot of people kind of like had pissy attitudes about that. But even though Tensu kind of in a way kind of annoyed me in a way, but he kind of grew on me. That little robot kind of grew on me in a way. But anyway, and am I leaving any characters out? I'm not really going to talk about the villains because I felt the villains in this season were kind of bland. They were nothing like, I mean, they weren't as bland as the samurai villains were, but they were pretty bland this season. But anyway, but yeah, well, let me talk about Gosei Knight. Gosei Knight was basically like the sixth. I guess you can call him like the sixth ranger of Gosei Knight. I call him Gosei Knight. Well, it was Robo Knight in Megaforce, but it was Gosei Knight and Goseiger. But anyway, he was a sixth, basically like the sixth ranger. I guess like they call it the sixth hero in Sentai, but he was basically the sixth ranger, and he came in and helped the team and whatnot, and And he had lots of comparisons to he had lots of comparisons to like the Phantom Ranger and the Bruce Interior from Turbo and the Magnet Defender and whatnot. And he basically had lots of he basically had like a lot of like people like compared him to those Rangers in their own right, because they didn't have any like secret identities, even though the Magnet Defender he eventually on down the line, when the Magnet Defender died, Mike took over the role. The Magnet took over the powers and the Magnet Defender powers. But anyway, he was the Queen. Go say well, Robo Knight was the I can't help it. I call him Ghost. That when I see I can't call him Robo Knight. That's just very, because it sounds like I'm about to say Robo Cop. But anyway, which actually is a movie that looks kind of badass. I wouldn't mind seeing that movie. But anyway, the new RoboCop remake. But anyway, but yeah, that's really all I got to say about the characters. I mean, they weren't really the blandest of all characters I've ever seen, but some of them could be pretty bland in some ways. But overall, here's my overall thoughts on Megaforce. I think it had a lot of potential. There was a lot of missed opportunities with it. I mean, there's a lot of things they could have did with Megaforce. And what you gotta think about it was inspired by a pretty lackluster. I mean, Ghost Sager got good toward the end, but Ghost Sager was kind of pretty lackluster. Ghost Sager had a lot of potential too, but it got better toward the end. Well, toward the middle, like the midway point toward the end, when I got the power ups and whatnot, it got better toward the end. But anyway, but yeah, but yeah, it's a whole. If I had to like rank it out of fight, like give it like 4, like 5, like stars, I'd probably give Super Mega Force maybe lucky you get a 3 out of 5 stars. I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I mean, cause like I said, there were points of the seasons. A lot of points that I like. I like the fact that they brought back they brought back the high school theme. They made the Rangers be in high school. We hadn't had any high school Rangers since Dino Thunder. Dino Thunder they were back in high school. But yeah. And I like the fact that they were like the whole teenagers. They brought back the whole teenagers with attitude thing. Be more reminiscent to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The whole teenagers with attitude thing. But anyway, but yeah, overall, like I said, I'm not gonna be too hard. I'm not gonna be too hard on Megaforce, but Super Megaforce, I'm expecting a lot of great things. I mean, of course, we know we got the legendary war and whatnot. And the last episode of Megaforce it kind of led up to all that. We know what's probably going to wind up happening next. But I'm interested in seeing how they're going to introduce all those past Rangers and whatnot. But anyway, if there's anything else you guys want to know about how I feel about Megaforce, leave me a comment below. Those are some things, some of my thoughts on Megaforce. I mean, I thought it was an okay season. It wasn't a great season. It wasn't really a good season. It was a okay season. I'll say like that. But anyway, leave me a comment below. I'm not trying to get back at you guys. How did you guys feel about Power Rangers Megaforce? Did you guys like it? I mean, did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know. Anyway, this is Diamond Wood 12 checking out. Peace. God bless. And I'm out.